Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, the Philippine peso sinks further, opening at 60.15 this Monday after hitting a record low on Thursday. It has reached an intraday high of 60.23. Brent crude and WTI hover at $111 and $98 per barrel, respectively. The implications with RCBC Chief Economist Mike Ricafort. Another round of fuel price hikes as pump prices reach record highs with the Middle East conflict entering its fourth week. And as fuel prices soar, transport groups nationwide are set to stage a transport holiday, even as government promises to hand out more financial aid to drivers and riders. Pump prices expected to spike further this week as the Middle East conflict continues to disrupt global oil supply. Industry sources project diesel prices could rise by as much as 14 pesos and 50 centavos per liter. Gasoline may go up by 7 to 7 pesos and 50 centavos per liter. If these increases push through, diesel could hit around 130 pesos per liter, while gasoline could climb past the 100 peso mark. As costs build up, President Bongbong Marcos says measures are in place to help ease the impact of the oil crisis. In his recent vlog, the president cited ongoing support, including train fare discounts, as well as cash aid and fuel subsidies for drivers, farmers, and fishermen. Last week, the Department of Social Welfare and Development has announced the next schedule of cash assistance for the transport sector. TNVS drivers are set to receive aid tomorrow, March 24th, followed by public utility jeepney drivers on March 25th, delivery riders on March 26th and 27th, and motorcycle taxi riders on March 28th. Meanwhile, the government is also working to secure stable oil supply while coordinating with manufacturers to keep basic goods prices stable. President Marcos has also urged the public to conserve resources and stay informed as the situation evolves.
Tungkol naman sa supply ng langis, nagkikipag-usap na po tayo sa mga bansa na ating mga trade partner gaya ng India. Ngunit sinasama na natin lahat ng mga iba at tinalapitan ang China, Japan, Thailand, Brunei, South Korea patungkol sa mga posibleng supply arrangement. Ngayon ang panahon para magtulungan. Ngayon ang panahon para maipakita natin sa buong mundo ang katangian ng bayanihan na nasa puso ng bawat Pilipino.
Iran says it will keep navigation restrictions in place at the Strait of Hormuz until what it calls threats against the country are removed. Iran's Consul General in Shanghai, Ali Mohammadi, accused the U.S. and Israel of undermining diplomatic talks through military action, saying their objective was to force Iran to surrender. Meanwhile, Israel's military says it has intercepted over 90% of missiles since the war began. Spokesperson Nadav Shoshani also warned Iran's missile program poses a wider threat with capabilities reaching parts of Asia, Europe, and Africa.
All of the casualties and injured people in this war have been civilians. This is what the Iranian regime considers success. We learned the range of the ballistic missile can cover entire Europe. This threat is not a threat only in Israel. It's a threat on large parts of Asia, all of Europe, and large parts of Africa.
Over the weekend, U.S. President Donald Trump gave Iran 48 hours to reopen the strait or face possible strikes on its energy infrastructure as Tehran launched one of its most intense attacks yet on Israel. The escalation comes as more U.S. forces are deployed to the region and oil prices continue to react. As of 9 a.m. Philippine Standard Time, benchmark Brent crude is trading at $111 per barrel. West Texas Intermediate is at $98 a barrel. Amid the escalating tensions, Pope Leo XIV has renewed calls for an end to the hostilities in the Middle East, urging prayers and dialogue to restore peace.
Rinnovo con forza l'appello a perseverare nella preghiera affinché cessino le ostilità e si aprano finalmente cammini di pace fondati sul dialogo sincero e sul rispetto della dignità di ogni persona umana.
And the peso continues its slide past 60 to the dollar. We're speaking and seeing the peso at 60.17 to the dollar. It opened at that rate while oil sustains trading at over $100 a barrel. As the Middle East conflict enters its fourth week. With us now for more on the implications, Michael Ricafort, Chief Economist of RCBC. It's good seeing you again, Mike. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Cathy, and to your viewers. Nice to be back.
Well, it could have been nicer if the peso wasn't falling as we speak and continuing to fall. What's the situation now, the intraday highs that we're seeing for the peso?
Well, it opened at 60.15. The intraday high at this morning, few minutes of trade, 60.23. The low was also the opening at 60.15. Currently, it's doing at 60.17. So compared to 7 centavos compared to the close last Friday at 60.10, but still below the 60.40 intraday high last Thursday rather.
Right.
When there was last trading was Thursday before the
Any
holiday last
indications
Friday.
of intervention from the Banco Central?
Well, it looks like they have confirmed it since a week ago officially, and looks like the smoothening activities have been consistent so far, Cathy, in recent days and weeks, especially since the war started, and that's manifested by at least the semblance of stability. There may be daily changes, the daily adjustments, as we have seen today. It's higher by less than 10 centavos compared to last Friday. But indeed, it's very important that indeed any volatility is smoothened and well, at least if you look at it, yeah, true, this may be record high levels, especially if taken on a closing basis, compared to the intraday record high of 60.40 last Thursday.
Right, but the trend is really weakening, isn't it, Mike? So really, can we say for sure that the Banco Central isn't really trying to hit a certain target there, but not attenuating the fall or the weakening path? But that is the trend, that it's going to follow just the same.
Yeah. It's semi-market forces statics to that in that respect, Cathy. They're smoothing it while the dollar versus global currencies so far compared to last weekend, even last Friday's trade when we were on a holiday. It's fairly stable as they opened because there were mixed signs, Cathy. Trump already signaling that they may have achieved already the objectives of the war with Iran, and similar signaling from the Israeli Prime Minister that they have already reduced the capability of Iran to
But we're not
enrich
the only
uranium.
currency that's weakening, Mike. When you look at our ASEAN peers, they're also being affected by the stronger dollar. But where do we stand right now with the peso already weakening past 2.2% year to date? When we look at our regional peers, they've done a little bit better.
Well, yeah, we have seen, at least the other regional currencies like the dollar yen, it has been fairly stable at 159 levels. But nonetheless, those are among the highest in 1 to 1.5 years. And also, Cathy, yeah, true, the likes of the Indian rupee, some pressure. But of course, the fundamentals there are kind of different. The thing is, we saw a downward correction in gold because of these statements by Trump and by the Israeli Prime Minister that they might wind down. But
that's a big caveat,
still,
isn't it, Mike? They might. I mean, there's just so much uncertainty here. So how much more vulnerable now is the Philippines, a net oil importer, with a peso past 60?
Yeah, because Cathy, the unfinished business is the Strait of Hormuz. That's very contentious right now. Trump gave 48 hours, so it's already 24 hours, more than 24 hours since. So We have less than a day. Indeed, if Trump would be true to his threats of attacking the major power facilities of Iran, and Iran also gave us or gave a statement that if they are attacked based on those threats by Trump, they're going to completely close the Strait of Hormuz. That's an unfinished business, Cathy, so to speak, because oil prices are the NYMEX oil is at $98 per barrel. It's still among the highest in almost 4 years since August of 2022. And that's the bottom line. Now, it's critical demand supply for the rest of the world, especially here in Asia and on countries that heavily depend on imported oil. So, that's still the bottom line. The need to secure supplies will still be there. Everybody's still on their toes because anything goes for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, isn't
for
that
the next day.
the most contentious part really is that when you take a look at the NYMEX crude and Philippine inflation, let's just pull up that chart because I find it so compelling that the NYMEX in the black line there, and the inflation, our inflation in blue, it's clear since 2000, Mike, every spike in oil is followed by a surge in inflation. So with oil now hovering above 100 a barrel, how high and how fast could local inflation climb from where we're at 2.4%?
That's more certain now, Cathy. Yeah, nobody knows when this war would end. That's for sure. Although there are already mixed signals, but still, of course, conflicting signals. What's for sure, Cathy, would be the impact on inflation. All of us feel that. Because of this warring factions, this external factor, exogenous factor that is beyond our control, we're all adversely affected. We're all paying for it. That's why, if tendency, the last inflation rate was 2.4%, but that's already passé. I mean, in the sense that we have a new normal now.
So what is the new normal, Mike? Where could inflation spike?
Well, it could be anywhere from 4% levels to even depend. It's a function of how long this drags on, and of course the pass-through effects. Although, in fairness, there have been non-monetary measures like subsidies and other suasion to prevent increase in prices of basic commodities.
So what's the worst case scenario then if 4% would be the base of potential inflation?
Well, actually, Cathy, even before the war, the full year average is around 3.7%. Now, with the war, we need to add at least 100 to 150 basis points. So the base would be somewhere around 4.5% to 5.5%. If the war is short, relatively short, if it's more prolonged, at least the definition of short, at least it's consistent with Trump's earlier signals, 4 to 5 weeks. We're now on more than 3 weeks into the war. So that's why he's trying to pressure also to stick to the timeline and given these signals. But of course, nobody really knows exactly when would that end. That if it's more prolonged, so there's a chance.
But what we do know, Mike, that the Bangko Sentral is going to make that pivot if indeed oil stays at 100 a barrel. I mean, if BSP hikes, our mortgages, car loans, and credit card payments go up. And if it doesn't, we do risk the sharper price spike at the gas station and supermarkets. So which pain do you think is more dangerous right now? Is it the higher debt burden or the inflation shock? And which side do you think the Monetary Board is likely to err on?
Well, actually, you have a third dimension there, Cathy, the softer economic growth. But that becomes corollary or secondary in this kind of environment. We just have to pattern similarities 4 years ago, not exactly the same, but kind of similar. We're in inflation. Yeah, that's the primary objective. So that's why the penultimate objective and mandate of the central bank is price stability or stable prices. So they would do everything at their disposal. We have seen that not only, all the global central banks, especially including the US and ours. We've seen that 4 years ago. So yeah, indeed, if inflation would reach above 4% soon, So there's a chance that they're gonna tighten or tighten monetary policy by way of higher BSP rate. So
Do you
that's
think that they could do that intermeeting and not wait for April 23rd?
well. Uh, well, we'll see, but it's based on the data.
So there is a
Kathy.
possibility that it could.
Well, there's that chance. There's that chance because inflation data would be due first, the latest one for the month of March, the first week of April. So they usually act based on data. Though, yeah, there's some lag effect into it, but that's the closest that they could get. At least they have some basis
But then
to.
the eyes firmly on the peso, because that's also a constraint, isn't it, Mike? So what is your forecast for the full week on the peso? Just looking at the technicals alone. I mean, it's uncharted territory, but you've been studying peso dollar through the charts.
It's a function of because anything is speculative at this point. So what's really more prudent and circumspect would be, and the track record also would. It's the function of intervention down the road, smoothing activities. So yeah, at least we now, well, at least we now see that it's allowed to adjust uh, based on market forces, but the smoothing activity is still there. So now, it's a function of the hedging activities as a matter of prudence as well. Because of in view of the country as a net importing country, we import almost all of our oil, and of course the other imports as well, and the need to pay for those imports, it's still in U.S. dollars and foreign currency.
So if, say, Mike, the price of oil stays at 100 a barrel, where do you think the peso will head and go?
Well, this is at least for 3 weeks already. We're already at familiar ranges. If you recall, the early part of about 2 weeks ago, there was an intraday spike in the NYMEX oil to almost $120 per barrel. That's a little over 119, but it didn't last long because there may be some demand destruction. Because that's a tendency. If you look at the charts, also, Cathy, of oil, they don't last long whenever they spike above 100 per barrel because of the demand destruction worldwide. People would tend to save, they would adjust and cut on other costs. Even businesses would do the same. So, but the thing is, the only difference now compared to the previous cycles, at least for the past 20, 25 years, is that the supplies, we don't have the Strait of Hormuz factor back then, where 20% of the world's crude oil and LNG and other energy products passes through. So
Okay.
if that is still close, demand supply, if there's tight supply, but so far oil is still behaving the way it is in familiar levels past 2 weeks. So that's still the most important indicator that we have to
So,
look at.
Mike,
Cathy.
60, 17, still at that range?
Yes,
Just a
still
final
the same,
check.
Cathy.
All right.
Yes, still the same.
Thank you so much for the update. Mike Ricafort of RCBC. At a time the peso continues to fall to historic lows. You're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, a transport strike brewing as fuel prices rise yet again. Keep it here on One News. Hey, it's Cathy. Welcome back and good morning. Naka-break lang tayo. I'll be with you shortly, Arles. Thank you so much. All right, you're all good. We're seeing that you're fixing your camera. And we can hear you and see you. All right. I'll be with you shortly. I just have some introduction tapos tayo na. Thank you, Arles. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. As fuel prices soar, transport strike are set to be staged this week. For details, we have our mobile journalist, Arles de los Santos, live in Manila. So what's the latest there, Arles?
Cathy, nandito nga tayo ngayon sa Maynila kung saan ay opisyal nang inanunsyo ng grupong Manibela ang kanilang nakatakdang transport strike sa paparating na Huwebes at Biyernes, March 26 at 27, bunsod pa rin nga ng patuloy na pagsirit ng produktong petrolyo sa merkado, kung saan nga kanilang panawagan ang pagsuspinde sa VAT, gayon din sa all the regulation law at train law, gayon din ang kanilang panawagan nga na dagdag pasahe at yung fuel subsidy daw na agad-agad na dapat ilabas ng pamahalaan. Cathy, ayon dito sa grupo ng mga tsuper ay kasama nila ang mga TNVS drivers, ride-hailing drivers, pati yung ilang mga truckers dito sa Tigil Pasada na kanilang isasagawa sa posisyon ng mga UP Express drivers. Yung kanilang kita mula 4 a.m. hanggang 10 p.m. ay nag-range na lamang ng nasa 150 pesos sa swerte na kung sasapagpanayan ng 300 pesos. Ayon sa Manibela, halos 1% na daw yung itinaas ng presyo ng produktong petrolyo, pero hanggang sa ngayon daw ay tila mabagal nga ang aksyon ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos para suspendihin yung excise tax. Ayon sa kanila, hindi naman daw nila sana talaga gusto na magkaroon ng taas pasahe dahil yung mga commuter na kanilang mga consumer, yung kanilang mga parokyano, yung maaapektuhan nito, nakasama din dito nga sa mga apektado ng patuloy na pagtaas ng presyo ng mga petrolyo. Kaya daw kanilang panawagan talaga sa pamahalaan yung mabilis na aksyon nito. Dahil Cathy, ayon sa kanila, halos dati daw kung tuwing Biyernes lamang kanilang inulam yung buko, ngayon daw ay halos araw-araw na ito. Kaya kanilang panawagan talaga yung pag-unawa din ng publiko at yung mabilis na aksyon ng pamahalaan.
Arles, itong coordinated transpo holiday strike, ano ang pinagkaiba nito nung Friday? Nung una nilang ginanap yung strike?
Actually, Cathy, yung transport strike last week ay pinangunahan ng grupong Piston, kung saan yung kanilang naging parang center, yung ground zero ng kanilang Tigil Pasada ay yung sa Welcome Rotonda sa Quezon City. Itong Manibela ay iba pang grupo ng transport group at yung kanilang, actually, nandito tayo sa kanilang terminal, kabila lamang kasama yung kanilang mga driver. These are separate groups but still almost with the same goal. Fuel subsidy, taas pasahe, at syempre yung pagpasunod daw sa train law at all the regulation.
So hanggang kailan daw sila dyan?
Sa Huwebes at Biyernes, Cathy, March 26 at 27, yung kanilang nakatakdang tigil.
Okay, salamat sa update. Arles de los Santos, our mobile journalist, joining us live from Manila. And checking in on the markets, U.S. stocks closed sharply lower as tensions in the Middle East and disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz continue to shake investor sentiment. The Nasdaq led losses, down 2%. S&P 500 fell 1.5%, and the Dow slipped by about 1%. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields rose to 4.307% as markets price in prolonged high oil prices and inflation risks. Gold prices, meanwhile, fell to $4,570 per ounce, marking its largest weekly drop in dollar terms on record. U.S. futures point to a decline when the markets open later tonight, Manila time. The Nasdaq falling by over 0.5%. S&P 500 slips by about 0.4%, and the Dow declines by 0.8%. Asian markets also in the negative this Monday. The South Korean Kospi plunging over 6%. Japan's Nikkei 225 slips by over 4%, and Australia's ASX 200 falls by over 1.5%. And a quick check on our own markets as we resume trading. The PSEI opens this Monday lower by 1%. We're well below the 6,000 level, 5,951. Analysts say the benchmark index may extend losses this week as higher oil prices and a weaker peso fuel inflation concerns. That's as the sentiment remains fragile with the Middle East conflict and a hawkish pause from the U.S. Fed continue to weigh on risk appetite. As for the Philippine peso, as we've reported, it opens today weaker at 60.15 to the dollar. The currency previously closed at a record low of 60.10 on Thursday, its weakest level on record. The local unit is expected to stay above 60 against the dollar, pressured by elevated oil prices and stronger dollar demand. Markets were closed Friday in observance of Eid al-Fitr, or the end of Ramadan. In corporate news, Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation has expanded its rebate program to SE-TEX and Cavitex, offering toll discounts to public utility vehicles and cargo trucks. The program runs until May and aims to ease transport costs amid rising fuel prices. San Miguel Corporation's infrastructure unit is also granting 2-month toll rebates on SLEX and Star Tollway. Discounts will be applied weekly to qualified vehicles to help cushion the impact of higher fuel costs. Meanwhile, shares of DigiPlus Interactive declined on concerns over regulatory changes affecting its online gaming business. This comes despite steady earnings and a 3.8 billion peso dividend declaration. And coming up next in News and Views, controversy deepens in the House of Representatives over the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. Navota's Representative Toby Tiangco is standing by his claims funding allocations and government assistance programs may have influenced support for the complaint. Allegations strongly denied by fellow lawmakers. Does he have proof, and what exactly are his bases? We put these questions directly to Congressman Tiangco right after Money Talks. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.